Welcome back to CIA Declassified. We are stepping into the smoke-filled strategy rooms of the 1970s, where the ultimate prize wasn't territory, but information. During this era, the agency faced a wall of increasingly complex foreign ciphers that threatened to go dark. To break through, they didn't just hire better mathematicians, they bought the factory. We are exploring a time when the concept of neutrality was weaponized to create a global eavesdropping net that spanned every continent, proving that in the world of high intelligence, the most secure lock is the one you already have the key to. Imagine you are a head of state. You need to send top secret military orders, but you know the Americans and Soviets are always listening. Where do you turn? You turn to Switzerland. You buy your hardware from Crypto AG, a company with a global reputation for unbreakable security. What you didn't know was that the salesman shaking your hand was effectively an extension of Western intelligence. This was Operation MINERVA. How did this operation get its name? The operation was originally known as Thesaurus by the CIA, but in the 1980s it was renamed to Minerva. The name is actually derived from the Roman goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare. Intelligence historians note the choice was symbolic. Minerva was born fully armed from the head of Jupiter, mirroring how the agency took a fully formed, successful private company and transformed it into a weapon of the state. It represented the wisdom of knowing the enemy's moves before they even made them. Operation Minerva was the intelligence coup of the century. The CIA and the West German BND secretly purchased Crypto AG in 1970 for roughly $5 million, hiding their ownership through a shell company in Liechtenstein. A quote from a declassified CIA internal history. Foreign governments were paying good money to the US and West Germany for the privilege of having their most secret communications read by at least two, and possibly as many as 5 or 6, foreign nations. End quote. The company's founder, Boris Hagelin, Hagelin, agreed to the deal partly out of a desire to see his technology used to combat communism. The agency rigged the machines using weakened algorithms. To the user, the encryption looked sophisticated, but for the CIA, the mathematical keys were easily solved by their supercomputers. A quote from an internal B&D report, the Minerva partnership transformed the B&D into a first-rate intelligence power overnight. End quote. The operation allowed the U.S. to monitor the Iranian hostage crisis in real time as the Iranian government was a major client of Crypto AG. During the Falklands War, the agency provided the UK with decrypted Argentinian military communications gathered through Minerva-rigged machines. More than 120 countries bought the compromised hardware, including India, Pakistan, Egypt, and most of Latin America. The operation was so sensitive that the CIA and B&D employees working on it were required to use backdoor accounting to hide the company's massive unexplained profits from tax authorities. The agency factually employed math saboteurs, specialists who visited the Crypto AG headquarters in Zug, Switzerland to manually adjust the wiring of new models. When a Crypto AG salesman named Hans Bueller was arrested in Iran on suspicion of spying, the BND secretly paid his $1 million bail to prevent the Iranians from discovering the Minerva link. The operation provided the evidence needed to link Libya to the 1986 La Belle Disco bombing in Berlin, as the agency intercepted the orders sent to the Libyan People's Bureau. Technical logs confirm that the agency sold unrigged machines to a select few allies, like Switzerland, to maintain the facade of the company's integrity. Documentation reveals that the BND pulled out of the operation in the early 1990s, fearing the diplomatic fallout if the German public discovered they were spying on allies. The CIA continued the operation alone until 2018, transitioning the compromised hardware into the digital software era. Records show the agency used a front company called the MINERVA Group to handle the legal distribution of dividends to the U.S. Treasury. The operation successfully mapped the command and control structures of nearly every major military in the Middle East over a 40-year period. Internal CIA memos describe the Hagelin Handshake, the informal agreement that ensured the Swiss government would look the other way regarding Crypto AG's odd business practices. The program utilized technical service visits where agency technicians disguised as repairmen would fix machines that had accidentally become too secure. MINERVA logs confirm that the agency was able to read the encrypted traffic of the Vatican for decades. The project successfully influenced the Camp David Accords by allowing President Carter to know exactly what the Egyptian and Israeli delegations were saying in private to their home governments. The agency utilized price incentivizing, where they lowered the cost of the compromised machines to ensure developing nations would choose them over more secure competitors. Documentation proves the agency had kill switches built into some machines, allowing them to disable an enemy's communication during a live conflict. The operation used proprietary algorithms that were copyrighted, making it a legal nightmare for independent mathematicians to audit the security of the machines. Agency researchers discovered that if a client tried to add their own encryption on top of the Crypto AG layer, the hardware would mysteriously malfunction. Records showed that the CIA used the profits from Crypto AG to fund other off-the-books operations, creating a self-sustaining cycle of espionage. The program identified several mole hunts within foreign ministries by watching how they handled leaked information that only appeared in their encrypted cables. Internal reports show that the agency viewed the Neutrality brand of Switzerland as their single most valuable operational asset. A quote from a 2004 Declassified CIA evaluation. MINERVA has provided a window into the intentions of the world that no satellite or human asset could ever replicate. End quote. The agency replaced Crypto AG's top management with individuals who had high-level security clearances from the US and West Germany. Technical logs confirm that the weakened machines were designed to emit certain radio frequencies that made them easier to track by signals intelligence satellites. The operation utilized a secret Swiss bank account code named SAND to move millions of dollars in untraceable operating expenses. Documentation proves the agency provided Crypto AG with advanced mathematical tools developed by the NSA to stay ahead of the curve. A quote from a 1970 declassified memorandum: "Control of Crypto AG provides us with the ability to monitor the diplomatic pulse of the non-aligned world." End quote. The program utilized the Hagelin Patent Archive to block any competitors from developing truly secure mechanical encryption. Records show that South Africa used these compromised machines for their military communications during the border wars of the 1970s. The agency manipulated the user manuals for the machines to encourage practices that made the encryption even easier to crack. The operation successfully intercepted the private communications of the Panamanian government during the negotiations for the Canal Treaties. Agency records show that the BND's portion of the profits was used to pay for clandestine operations throughout Eastern Europe. The program developed a specialized audit bypass for Swiss inspectors to hide the backdoor in the machine's hardware. Documentation confirms that some employees of Crypto AG who became suspicious were quietly reassigned or paid off to remain silent. The agency used its influence to make Crypto AG the recommended provider for the United Nations Secure Communications. A quote from a declassified 1982 CIA status report: "The client thinks he is buying security, but we are buying his secrets." End quote. The project utilized artificial scarcity, claiming certain secure models were unavailable to push clients towards more vulnerable hardware. Logs show the agency provided the BND with decryption templates so they could read the traffic without needing direct access to U.S. supercomputers. The operation successfully provided the U.S. with the exact positions of Libyan naval vessels during the Gulf of Sidra incident. Agency researchers tested the bypass reliability by running their own traffic through the rigged machines to ensure it stayed readable. The program influenced the choice of encryption in the newly formed European Union's early diplomatic networks. Internal reports described the ZUG connection as the single most productive signals intelligence source in the history of the agency. The agency maintained a mirror database that captured every keystroke entered into a MINERVA rigged machine globally. When we look at the declassified MINERVA documents, the most staggering redactions occur in the 2010 to 2018 sections. Specifically, the digital migration appendix is almost entirely blacked out. The highest density of redactions is found in a document which details the handover to Silicon Valley. This document is essentially a solid block of black ink for 50 pages. Why is the agency hiding the end of the paper trail? In the dark alleys of the cybersecurity community, people whisper about the Five Eyes back door. There is a long-standing theory that the redacted sections contain the legal agreements between the CIA and major U.S. tech giants to incorporate the dual_EC_DRBG algorithm. The rumor is that the agency didn't just end MINERVA, they migrated the weakened Swiss math into the global standards for modern internet encryption, essentially turning the entire World Wide Web into a digital version of Crypto AG. Among privacy advocates, there is a recurring speculation regarding trust zone isolation. The gossip suggests that the blacked out pages detail a clandestine deal with chip manufacturers to include a secondary hidden processor in every mobile device. The theory is that the MINERVA on a chip bypasses the operating system entirely, sending raw metadata and encrypted packets back to Fort Meade before your own phone even realizes it's sent a message. Investigators often point to the ZUG silence. The theory is that the Swiss Federal Intelligence Service didn't just ignore the operation, they were silent partners. Rumor has it that the redacted documents hide a data swap agreement where the CIA provided Swiss authorities with domestic surveillance data gathered from the machines in exchange for the company's continued immunity. Some believe this is why Switzerland's famous banking secrecy remained untouched by U.S. regulators for decades. It was a payoff for MINERVA. Was MINERVA a success? Tactically, it was a God mode access. For over 50 years, the agency had a front row seat to the internal deliberations of over 100 nations. Strategically, it was an unparalleled triumph. It allowed the U.S. to navigate the Cold War, end the war on terror with a level of foresight that prevented countless escalations and secured diplomatic victories. The project was a success because it commodified trust. It successfully turned the world's desire for privacy into the agency's greatest tool for surveillance. It proved that the most effective way to spy is to own the infrastructure of the conversation. Furthermore, it succeeded in remaining secret for nearly half a century, a feat almost unheard of for an operation of this scale. It demonstrated that a private corporation could be more effective at being a vessel for state power than any government department. The program effectively created a permanent infiltration that could be handed down through generations of intelligence officers. By the time it was exposed, the agency had already transitioned the data harvesting techniques into the digital cloud. Ultimately, MINERVA proved that if you can sell the solution to a problem you created, you control the world. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, the Neutrality-Trap led to quite a few, such as Structural-Infiltration. The method of owning the company rather than just bugging it is now used in venture capital espionage, where intelligence fronts buy stakes in emerging AI startups. Algorithm weakening, the broken math techniques led to current standardization capture, where the government influences global encryption standards to ensure they contain mathematical vulnerabilities. Supply chain compromise, the physical rigging of machines and Zug evolved into modern interdiction operations, where hardware is intercepted and modified in transit to the buyer. And the neutral third-party facade. The use of a Swiss brand to mask U.S. interest is the basis for flag of convenience cloud hosting services that claim to be outside U.S. jurisdiction. MINERVA reminds us that in the digital age, neutrality is often a mask. When you look at your secure devices, remember the neutrality trap. The agency realized that the best way to catch a secret is to be the one who offers to keep it. You are not just a customer in the eyes of the modern supply chain. You are a source of data whose trust is a commodity to be harvested. The back door isn't just in the code, it's in the handshake of the company you think is protecting you. We are all living in a global network where the most secure room is often the one with the biggest windows for those who hold the keys. The math doesn't lie, but the men who sell the math certainly can. Privacy is a beautiful Swiss watch, but if you didn't build the gears yourself, you can never be sure who else is watching the time. Every encrypted message is a message in a bottle, and the ocean belongs to the agency. The history of MINERVA is a blueprint for the present, where the lock and the key are often forged by the same hand. Trust is the final frontier of the surveillance state. Your silence is their most valuable asset. Thanks for listening. Stay secure, and remember, if the service is neutral, you might be the target. Now join us next time as we examine JG Arrow. In the humid shadows of Indochina, the agency moved beyond surveillance into the world of direct action. We'll uncover the targeted assassination and neutralization programs that operated outside the traditional rules of engagement. This project was designated as a kinetic neutralization initiative, and it was the precursor to the modern age of precision strikes. Speculation suggests that certain 2026 tactical disappearances and conflict zones are using the updated JG Arrow extraction protocols. Join us next time for the silent clearance. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.